Welcome back to Ren Fair.
Welcome back. Hope everybody has had a wonderful Christmas season and New Year's.
Absolutely. And this is our first video recording for you guys, too. So if you are listening on a podcast platform and you're not seeing the video, just know that you can go to YouTube and watch it if you would like to. And our handle there is Ren Fair Pod, just like it is on Instagram.
Yay. I'm excited about this part.
I am too. This is going to be fun. How was your, even though my lighting is absolutely terrible right now. So
We'll get there.
apologies in advance. I did not
Also
get a
a
ring
very
light for
cluttered
Christmas,
background.
unfortunately. No, your background looks great. It's fine. Not bad at all. How was your Christmas?
It was really good. It was pretty quiet. What I've promised my therapist is that I would be more balanced during this
Oh,
break and not try to fill
okay.
every minute.
Yeah.
So I just had a nice little Christmas Eve at Forrest's brother's house. We went to church, had some fun there, got called out for having some wine before the event because it was at like 7. I'm like,
It's
well,
communion.
if I'm having tenderloin for Christmas Eve dinner, I'm drinking red wine with it.
Absolutely.
So, and then we just did the afternoon with my family on Christmas, and it was great. And I've been laying on the couch pretty much ever since, catching up on Stranger Things, the Kardashians,
Oh
things
my
like that.
God, yes. You're caught up on all the episodes?
Yes. I hate
I
that
am
I have to wait
too.
until Wednesday or
Oh,
Thursday or
okay.
whatever.
So what did you think about the last 3 or whatever, the ones that came out on Christmas Eve?
They were good. I cried multiple times. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, maybe we won't do any
Spoiler alert.
spoilers, but just your general
Yeah, I cried a
thoughts
couple
on it.
times.
Okay.
I think it's getting really good. It may be dragging on a little bit, but so many meaningful moments that I think everybody will leave this season really satisfied with like how the storylines wrap up. Unlike
Yeah.
things like Game of Thrones, which was just like so insane. They didn't have the time to like make everything make sense. And I do think like we're getting the final stories from people properly.
Yes, so I agree. That's what I know not everybody. I know a lot of people are really hating on these last 3 and saying how they're terrible and like the show is limping to an end. I disagree completely. I think that I know there's a lot of dialogue. It's very dialogue heavy, so I can see why people don't like it, but I think it's entirely necessary to wrap up all the storylines. I would prefer it that way. Yeah.
Right. Like some scenes, maybe they didn't need to do it as long, but they were all important. And I'm just not the type of person that's going to consume media from a critical aspect. Like I'm here to enjoy myself
Okay.
and feel the
Yeah.
stories and not pick it apart unless it's horrendous. Unless it's obviously bad, I'm not
Right.
going to waste my time being like, is the composition right or stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know enough to do that anyways
Yeah,
about
exactly.
media. I just know if I liked it or not, and
Yeah, I
I
just know
thought they
bad
were
when I
good.
see it, but
I
I don't see
enjoyed
it.
it. So, yeah, I'm very excited for the final episode. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah,
Are you going to watch it on Christmas Eve?
probably.
I mean, New Year's Eve, sorry.
Yeah, we're on the fence about
Yeah.
doing anything, so probably
Yeah, I
will.
don't think we're going to do anything either. We're just going to watch the episode and hang
Yeah.
out.
There's a Talking Heads cover band that I really want to go see, and then I remember that I
Okay.
have to stay there till like 1 a.m. and then I'm tired.
Thumbs up for you.
I don't want to do that. Really. We'll see if I can make it to midnight.
Yeah, we'll definitely stay up, but I don't think I'm just not the type of person. I love to go out. I love to get, dressed up and do something. I hate doing
then
it
go
when
home.
everybody else in the city
Yeah.
is also out.
This luckily
Like,
it would be
I don't
like
want to go
a
out for
maintained
Valentine's
crowd.
Day. Yeah.
Like I'm not going downtown or anything, but um I just have been partying since Thanksgiving and I'm tired. You
I'm
know
just
what
a
I mean?
party
Like,
animal.
well, there's just like so many things to like go out to the Christmas bar with
Yeah.
people and like do
You
gift
need to cleanse your liver a little
exchanges.
bit.
Yeah, I need a little January soberness to be here.
Did you get anything fun for Christmas?
Yeah, I did. I got a really beautiful deck of tarot cards with a nice guidebook. So
Exciting.
gonna try to get that to get me back into the daily habit.
What does it have on it?
It's like the artist is James Eads, and he used to do a lot of print work. So Forrest had actually gotten his mom like 2 prints by him years ago.
Oh, that's cool.
But they're just like these really colorful, but also dark background, and like the sides are like shiny. I don't know. I'll send you a picture later, but they're really
Yeah, send it to
pretty.
me.
So I feel like it's gonna draw me into my daily habit a little bit better. I also got this on-air light from my
Cute. I love it.
sister-in-law. So I'm very excited to kind of post this outside of my room when I'm either on a meeting or on this podcast.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
A Kindle and the I got the little solar wave red light therapy wand, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, does it make your skin feel sensitive, or is it
Not
just like,
really. Like,
how does it feel?
I didn't get any redness. It gets warm.
Okay.
It vibrates a little bit. And of course, like the red light is really bright. So I usually will close my eyes when I'm doing it around my
Mhm.
face, and then you do your neck. And it takes like 15 minutes if you just do like the 3 minutes or like 1.5 minute on each section. I feel like that's not enough,
Okay.
but that's what they say. And then
Yeah, maybe
follow
to
the
start at
instructions.
least.
Yeah. But just because it gets hot, I wanted to be careful about doing it every day. So I'm gonna do it again today, but I took 2 days off.
Okay.
They say at minimum 3 times a week, but like 3 to 5. So I will report back with results.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear how you like it.
Yeah.
I'm
It's really
curious.
cozy, and it's just like it feels like a really great unwind before bed after you've done your cleansing and stuff. The only other thing is that you have to keep reapplying or reapply section by section a hyaluronic acid serum or whatever serum or moisturizer you use to be able to glide it on your skin.
Oh, so you actually touch it to your skin.
Yeah. Just like
Gotcha, okay.
lightly. Like you're just
I
like
see.
brushing it. But then that gets it dirty. So I don't know about I need to read up on how to
Yeah.
clean it because it's like it'll get bacteria every time. I don't know. So I got to look into that part of it.
Right,
But
I was thinking that you didn't touch it to your skin, that it was just something you held close to it, so yeah,
well,
that's
they
I don't
said
know how that would work.
glide, so I assume that means touching.
Yeah, no, I think you're
Just so
probably
you know.
right.
And that's why it has to stay so moist. So I assume that's what I'm supposed to do.
Okay, well, if anyone knows, something differently, let us know, I
More
guess.
tales of red light therapy coming up soon.
Yes, this can be our special segment, reporting back on the red light therapy. What do you have for your fare today?
A piece of buttered bread. I didn't even have time to toast it.
Exciting. I have water, so
And I have some coffee too, because why not drink coffee until noon?
perfect. I already had my coffee.
Yeah, guys, we're doing this in the morning, by the way.
I know. I think this is our first ever morning recording.
Yes, indeed. But not too
Yeah,
early,
so
thank goodness. I would die.
no,
My
no, no,
eyes would still
no.
be puffy.
Can't do that. Well, I guess, we could probably get started.
Yeah. Wait, did you get any good standout presents? I didn't ask you.
I got a really nice suede bag for my mom,
Ooh,
which I absolutely love. So I'm very excited about that. I got a watch, a Seiko, which I love as
I
well.
watched last year.
You got to watch last year. Yeah, they're great. What else did I get? I got like some stuff for around the house. Like I got a throw blanket. I got like a nice silverware set for hosting people.
Ooh,
Yeah, and just like some other little things like that, pretty much. Yeah,
I love it.
it was very nice Christmas, but I'm happy it's over.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, there's always that period. I love Christmas. It's great, but it's also, I feel like maybe this is just me, but it feels so stressful sometimes.
It's so stressful. It was not as
Okay,
stressful as
thank
it
you.
was this year for me. I didn't end up going to Richmond, which helped.
Mm,
But I wasn't, like, trying to jam pack seeing everybody. I didn't go to any Friendsmas
yeah.
stuff. I didn't do a lot of that, and I feel great, but I wanna get this tree out of my house. I've been waking up feeling like death
Yes.
every morning. I'm definitely allergic to it. Like, I felt
Oh,
like I've had a cold.
wow,
So I'm like,
really?
"Okay, January 1st, sorry, I can't make it to Epiphany. It's going down."
Interesting.
Yeah,
So you think you're allergic to pine?
I guess. Well, I'm allergic to, like, everything but elm trees, so yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But
Wow,
when we
that's
brought it
crazy.
into the house, I had, like, a 3-hour allergy attack, and then my body
Oh
just kind of
no.
gets back to that low level of constant
Yeah.
inflammation. So, ready to get out of there.
Jeez. I just want to get everything out because I love the decorations, but also it starts to feel like clutter to me. And so
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, time to put
Especially
that
with, like, all the
away.
presents around. Yesterday, I was like,
Yeah.
we are getting everything in their places.
Yes. The stress levels are real. And then it's more like an emotional stress for me where I'm like, I want to make sure that everybody is having a good time and
Mhm.
everybody gets what they want and make it special and let everybody like be happy. And so it just feels like a lot of emotional labor to try to make sure that everything, I put on myself, but to make sure that
Yeah.
everything goes smoothly and nicely for everyone. So,
That was my other promise to my therapist that I would not do that.
well, that probably should have been my promise to my therapist, but here we
Or
are.
rather, these are promises to myself.
Yeah, or promises for the future. We'll
Yeah.
put it at that because it didn't happen this year. So what I'm going to talk about today, you're drinking coffee. I'm going to talk about tea.
Oh my God, fun.
Yeah, we're going to do history. What is tea? I've always heard that you're supposed to brew different teas at like different temperatures, and I'm a tea lover myself. I know that you like some herbal teas at least. Do you like
Mhm.
all kinds of
Yeah,
tea?
I like all teas.
Okay. But I did not know the details of it, and I wanted to learn more, and so I thought we'd all learn together.
Wow, this is exciting. The tea trade is insane, so this will be fun.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So this will be fun. So what is tea? Tea comes from the plant Camellia cineus, which is what all true teas, which would be black, green tea, white tea, oolong, or pu'er, come from. This one plant. So that's something I also didn't realize, that it's
Interesting.
literally just the
I
one
just figured
plant.
that they were different plants.
Yeah, that you would think so, but it's all just the one plant, and it's just the way that they're processed that makes them different. And then there's herbal teas as well, like chamomile or peppermint, which are technically not real teas. They're infusions, is what they're
Mhm.
called. So, and that I didn't realize as well, that there was actually a difference between those two.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like herbal teas for the functional benefits. Like I drink chamomile before bed. I drink raspberry leaf tea before my
Yeah.
period, like all of that kind of stuff.
All of them have health benefits, just in different ways. And I mean,
Right.
it's all some kind of leaf or flower or something that's being infused. It's just there's real tea that comes from that plant, or then there's just what we would call an herbal tea. So tea was believed to have originated in China around 2737 BCE, according to legend. And that's when Emperor Shen Nong accidentally drank water infused with tea leaves. And this story is, we don't have record that this is actually how it happened. It's a myth, but that's how they believe that it came about, is that they were boiling some water to be able to drink clean, safe water, and some leaves fell in it. And he was like, let's just give it a try. That's how tea
You
was
know, that's how we discovered
created.
everything.
Yeah, that is the myth. There is, I believe, a few different versions of that as well, but that I think is the most common one that people go with. And archaeological evidence shows tea use in China by at least the Han Dynasty, which is 206 BCE to 220 CE. So pretty early on in history. Before that, tea was thought to be largely a medicinal drink before becoming a daily beverage. It's associated with balance, longevity, and spiritual clarity, especially in Buddhist and Taoist traditions.
I can see that with like green tea, for example. It's that clarity of mind in an energetic way kind of
Mm-hmm.
caffeine versus the jitters you get from coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know how common coffee was in China, if that was
Yeah.
ever around before tea. I know in Britain they had only coffee for a while before tea was introduced, but I think within China it was pretty much always primarily tea that they were drinking.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Yeah. So the Tang Dynasty in 618 to 907 BCE, tea became widely consumed. And we know this because this was the period when first texts were written about tea. So it was believed to have become common, or we have archaeological evidence after that, but that's when the first texts are written. And then the Song Dynasty in 960 to 1279 BCE, tea culture becomes more refined and ceremonial. And then the Ming Dynasty from 1368 to 1644 BCE, loose leaf tea replaces compressed tea bricks. So that's what they used first, and then loose leaf, and then eventually we went to the bags of tea that we most traditionally use now. Although some people still do use the loose leaf.
I really like those little cute things that you can stuff the loose leaf into,
Yeah,
little animals or whatever, and you drop it in. I would love to get there. My game hasn't gotten that strong yet.
I was going to ask if you had one. I just have, it's not a cute little animal or anything. It's just one of the little like balls that you can use. But I don't have a lot of loose leaf. Usually I just use the bags because they're easier.
Yeah, I would have to like order it online, or there's maybe one or two places around here that I could get it loose leaf, but
Oh, yeah.
not near me. We'll
Yeah,
just go with the bagged for now.
that makes sense. There is an Asian market near here that has tons of different
Mm.
teas, and they have
We
some
had
loose
a
leaf.
integrative health place that did that, but now that I think about it, that's probably more like herbal.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
they
it could
probably do
be.
have the others, but I feel like if it's integrative health, it's like the functionality of it. So
Right. Probably more herbal, yeah. So tea spread from China to Japan via Buddhist monks, which was what led to tea ceremony culture. It led to Korea and Southeast Asia, primarily through trade, and then through Central Asia along the Silk Road. And in China, tea represents harmony, respect, and balance. And the Gong Fu tea ceremony symbolizes mindfulness and skills. So that's something that's particular to China and ceremonial to them. Japan has a tea ceremony called Chaianyu, which is rooted in Zen Buddhism, and it focuses on impermanence, simplicity, and presence. In India, Thai culture blends British influence with Indian spices, and tea is accessible, communal, and societal there more than it is ceremonial in places like Japan or China. And then in Morocco, tea symbolizes hospitality and generosity, and the act of pouring it is as important as drinking it. So it's a bit ceremonial in a social way there.
I love that.
Europe encountered tea in the 1600s through Portuguese and Dutch traders. And Catherine of Braganza, wife of King Charles II in 1662, is who likely popularized it as she was from Portugal, and it's a common drink there. It's getting into the British territories in the early 1600s, but it's not popular. They had coffee, like I said, and so people had tea, but it wasn't the kind of phenomenon that we think of British people and tea nowadays.
Yeah, you think about Britain and you think tea, or when
Yes.
you think tea, you think about China, but like Portugal, never would have imagined.
Yeah.
Morocco, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, Portugal and Dutch was primarily who were the people who brought in tea to Britain. And I love the fact too that it was around for like 60 years, but nobody really drank it in Britain
It's so
until
funny.
this Portuguese queen
The
popularized it.
Anglo-Saxons just love to like adopt little
Oh
pieces of
yeah.
culture and just like not have their own. I guess that is their culture.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of like America too. Like our
Exactly.
actual culture is Native American,
Mhm.
but we just sort of adopt everybody else's as our
Mhm.
own. So yeah, she was the one who's attributed with kind of popularizing tea there because she loved to drink it since it was popular where she was from, and so then people looking to the queen were like, "This is in vogue now," and everybody started drinking tea.
The queen is always a trendsetter. I love that.
Yes, it's very Victorian of her. Queen
Exactly.
Victoria popularized so
She was the
much, and she
biggest
did it as
of
well.
them all.
The British East India Company monopolized the tea trade, and Britain made its first order from the East India Company in 1664. So that makes sense. Came to power in 62, and then 2 years later in 64, they're making their first order now to the East India Company for tea. But the other thing that probably helped popularize it was that there was really, really high import taxes on the tea. So only wealthy people could afford to drink tea, which
Naturally.
again, it's the economy, supply and demand of it all, where if it's really expensive to get and only wealthy people can drink it, that kind of makes it all the more appealing to people. So tea was such a commodity actually that it began to be smuggled in more, and more tea was smuggled than was actually purchased legally.
Just have to say, the international trade in the 1600s blows my mind. Like
Yeah.
how many goods could have been transported all over the world with the means of wooden boats or like,
Yeah.
horses. It's insane to me. I can't wrap
No,
my head around it.
you're so right.
Like
Yeah,
how many
it
months
is
ahead do you
crazy.
have to order something when we can have Amazon at our doorstep in this afternoon?
Right. You could fly something from like France to me
Right.
in a day or two. Yeah.
Wild.
It is insane how much they were able to do back then with so little
Mhm.
resources, but I guess things just took a really long time.
Yeah.
So it was so expensive because the taxes on tea at that time was 119%.
My God.
So so that's why it was so expensive and why this like illegal trade formed where people were smuggling tea in to be able to drink it because it was so
Classic.
expensive.
Sounds
So
like
finally,
alcohol, cannabis
yeah,
trade.
yeah. I know. I mean, it's something that you see again and again. If people can't get it legally, they find some way to get things illegally. And so in 1783, which was roughly about 100 years after tea started getting popular, finally the taxes were slashed from that 119 to 12.5%, which is much more reasonable. And that allowed for everybody to start being able to drink it legally. So, and then another thing to that this kind of reminds me of is the fact that tea within the States was taxed so heavily by Britain that that's what ultimately led to, and other things, but led to the Boston Tea Party, which then led to the Revolutionary War
Yeah.
and America gaining their independence. So, and the tea trade with China also played a significant role in the development of drug dependencies in China because the British traders in the 18th and 19th centuries, as the demand for Chinese tea continued to grow in Britain, the British were trying to balance their trade. And so they started importing opium into India and China, not in exchange, but to kind of balance their
I feel like they're getting something
economic,
back.
like
Yeah.
their dependency on tea and the dependency on those countries for tea. So they were importing the tea in and then importing opium out, which
Mhm.
ultimately led to a lot of widespread addiction in China. And the Chinese government attempted to curb it finally in the 1830s, which resulted in the Opium Wars, which I'm not going to get into in a lot of detail right now. But it really entrenched the Chinese economy in that addiction and led to some long lasting social and health issues there as well.
Yeah. In Babel, that's part of the plot line that the main
Mm,
character's parents were kind of roped into that situation.
really?
And so he's obviously off at the school at Oxford or whatever. Um, but at one point they go back and visit and he kind of sees like what it's done to his country.
I don't think I know that book. Babel is what it's
Babel,
called?
it's by oh gosh, I always forget her name. R-H, I don't know how to spell, Kaung.
We'll find it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll find it. We could post a
Yeah.
link to it or something. Yeah, I would love to read that. That sounds really good. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I have it. I should have given it to you.
That's okay. I'll find it at the library. It's my favorite place to go for books. And then types of teas. So there is black tea, which is fully oxidized, and oxidized means that it's been exposed to oxygen. So it's been exposed to oxygen the most, essentially, out of all the teas, which is why it gets that dark color and why it's called a black tea. And that gives it its bold and strong flavor. And some examples of different types of black teas could be Assam, Darjeeling, and Earl Grey. Those are all considered black teas. Then we have green tea. Green tea is minimally oxidized, so it's a lot less than the black teas are. So it has still some of that fresh, grassy taste. And then some examples would be sencha, matcha, and dragonwell. Those are all types of green tea. And fun fact, matcha actually uses the entire ground tea leaf rather than just infusing it, which is why it's a little bit more grassy and bitter. And I know some people don't like it. I personally love it.
I don't know that I've had matcha because of that, or matcha.
Really?
Um, I like green tea, but yeah, it doesn't look appealing to me. And don't they put milk in it sometimes? Or is it
Yeah,
just
I mean, you
straight?
could do oat milk or
Okay.
milk. Yeah. If
Well, I
you're
don't
not
want
going to want to
any.
drink, okay. I was going to say, you're not going to want to drink matcha just as powder. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
wouldn't
my
taste
issue.
good.
Like I could do it with water, I guess, but I don't want any
You could.
milks in my tea.
Do you not drink any milk in your coffee or anything either?
No,
Even
I
like
drink it
plant
black.
milks? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, you
Not for
probably,
anything
if you,
dietary, but I just don't like the flavor of it.
even plant milks?
Even plant milks. Like for my smoothies,
Okay.
I use coconut water instead of coconut milk or
Mm,
almond milk.
okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, if you don't like any types of milk, then yeah,
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't be something that you would like, but it is really, really good for you in terms of antioxidants. So if you
Mhm.
ever wanted to try it, it's a good substitute for coffee or something.
Yeah. open to trying it, but I've never been with somebody who gets it. I think that and I'm never gonna buy it myself, so I'm like, life
Okay.
will go on.
I was gonna say, I think when we were planning for this podcast, I may have gotten a matcha and I should have had you try it.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right.
It's okay. Next time.
Yeah.
White tea is the least processed, so it's the most true to the actual plant itself. And it has a delicate and subtle flavor, and it's made from the really young buds of the plant, which is why it's so delicate and not maybe as grassy as green tea
Mhm.
is.
Hmm.
Oolong tea is another type of tea. It's partially oxidized, kind of like the green tea is, and has some complex and layered flavors. It's in between what a green tea and a black tea would be, so a little darker than a green tea. And then pu'er is a type that I hadn't heard of and didn't realize that I had tried before.
That's funny.
It's a fermented and aged tea. So it's similar to black tea in that it's been oxidized for a long time, and it can either be aged, which is called sheng, or there's cooked, where they're kind of speeding up that fermentation process, and that's called shu. So there's two different types, and it's kind of mushroomy because of that fermentation process. So it has a really earthy and deep flavor. And when I had tried it, I was like, this black tea tastes weird because I didn't realize that it was
Mhm.
pu'er, which is the fermented tea. And so it's also often compressed into cakes or bricks. So if you ever see like those bricks of tea, that's probably pu'er.
Feels like that's the first step of making kombucha. Like, kombucha
Yeah.
without the fruit and sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably a similar
'Cause it
process,
just
just
it's
like that.
just black tea that's fermented.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even, I guess, really think about the fact that kombucha is a
Well,
tea too.
I guess the fermentation happens when you add the fruit, but I guess you add sugar too, so if you just added only sugar, I don't know. We don't have to solve the
And
world's
it could be
problems.
that like different bacteria as well,
Yeah.
because obviously like the types of bacteria are going to change how it tastes. So
Mhm.
it could also be that too. And then, like we said, herbal infusions are not technically teas, but there are a couple common ones that people would generally call a tea, even though it's not a true one. Chamomile, like you mentioned, is very calming. Peppermint is used as a digestive tea. Rubios is naturally caffeine-free tea, which a lot of people like. And then hibiscus is another common one, which is bright and antioxidant rich, which
Mhm.
is great if you're looking to have a healthy alternative to something with caffeine or like a coffee or something like that.
Yeah. If you wanna clear your chest out, nettle and peppermint, great.
Okay. I haven't tried nettle. That's good to know. So, how to prepare tea? This was the big one that got me started on this because I wanted to know how to do it correctly. So, first, always use fresh and filtered water. That's important to make sure that minerals don't change the taste of your tea. And then you should also avoid reboiling water because that evaporates some of the oxygen and different things that are in the water, which then changes your taste, the taste of the tea as well. So always use fresh
I
water.
do that every now and then, but yeah, that makes sense. The reboiling part.
Yeah, it's not gonna kill you. It's just probably gonna taste a little bit different
Yeah,
if you have a refined palate. I'm sure most people
which I
probably
do
wouldn't
not.
notice. Yeah, I've never noticed the difference either. Black tea is boiled at the highest temperature. That's from 200 to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And then oolong tea is so it kind of goes from like the most oxidized is the highest temperature down. So like as you get more delicate in the tea, you're going to want to use a lower temperature or you're going to end up
Burning it.
overheating it and it's not going to taste the same. So oolong tea is a little less oxidized. That one's a medium high temperature from 180 to 206. Green tea is from 160 to 180, and white tea is around that range as well, 160 to 180. You'd want to keep it on the lower temperature. And then herbal tea, it doesn't matter, just boil it how
Oh,
you would
really? Good to
normally.
know. Because now I'm sitting here
200.
mad that I don't have, like, a temperature gauge on my teapot,
Yeah,
and
I
but I do
know,
try to
and
let it sit.
I don't have one on mine either. I know some of them do because, like, the one that I use at work has it, which is great.
Mm,
But if you don't have a temperature on your teapot, you can always, like, boil it to the around what you think it'll be and then pour it and temp it. And then if it's too hot, you can wait a little bit before you put in
mhm.
your tea bag, or you could always put, like, an ice cube in it or something to cool it down a bit.
What's boiling? 212? So it's always at least
Um,
212, right?
I think so, yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, I guess you could
Yeah.
just have a thermometer once you pour it in the cup.
Yeah. Or just if you, I'm sure if you do it enough, you probably get good at telling like
Mhm.
how long you have to boil it for to get to the right temperature.
Yeah, like, people at Starbucks can tell temperature
Yeah.
easily. Wild.
Yeah. So black teas and oolong teas, you're probably good to just like let it boil and then for the other ones you just want it to be hot but not boiling yet. And then steeping time too. So most teas, depending on the type, are 2 to 5 minutes that you want to steep it for. If you do it for too little time, it's going to be weak, or if you do it for too long, it's more bitter, which is especially important for things like green tea. If you don't like the
Uh-huh.
grassy taste as much, you might be steeping it for too long or your water might be too hot. And then for anything you would add to tea, like milk, sugar, lemon, there's not any strict rules. It's more cultural what people choose to put in their tea. But this is an interesting fact that I had found during my research was that milk was traditionally used to help protect the porcelain cups from getting stained by dark black teas. Isn't that funny? And then now people, obviously use it for taste choices, but it protected teacups from getting those tea stains in them.
That just made me think about divination in Harry Potter, of, like, the back
Yeah, with
tea
the
reading the tea leaves or whatever.
yeah. I wonder if milk affects that. Does it cloud your
I think
ability
so,
to
I would
tell?
imagine.
Really? People's fortunes? Yeah, I don't know.
Mhm. Like, change the shape because it's a little thicker. I have no idea.
That's true, that's true.
I'll have to go back and watch that scene.
We'll have to ask a witch who specializes in that if it changes it. So, just a couple other little fun facts to finish us off here. Tea is the second most consumed beverage in the world after water, which is crazy. I did not know that it was quite that popular. And then the phrase high tea originally referred to a working class meal and not a fancy tea. So, high tea was like
Interesting.
after everybody had eaten their, I believe it was lunch. I think it's afternoon that maybe the higher class people had had their meal, then working class would be able to sit and have theirs. And that was when high tea was. And so it doesn't mean like a high as in fancy. It just means later in the day, essentially.
So what is I guess just tea time is just, like, regular tea time? Like, I'm thinking about, like, Bridgerton and stuff where they would sit in the tea room, like,
Hmm.
all day and have little cucumber sandwiches or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It would probably just be
Crumpets.
tea time. Or I feel like I didn't run across this when I was researching, but I do feel like I had heard other phrases used for tea time, but I don't
Mhm.
know them off the top of my head. Can't remember.
Do we even know what a crumpet is?
So a crumpet's like a biscuit,
Okay.
basically. Yeah, it's like a little
Is it
yeah,
like a
just like
hard
a
biscuit or, like, a biscuit that we would get, like,
I
biscuit?
think it's more like a biscuit that we would think of, like a
Okay,
Pillsbury
got
biscuit
it.
situation.
Love it.
But let's look it up. Let's
Yeah.
see.
Just like we know what it is, but or biscuits, yeah, because sometimes biscuits are like crackers, so
Yeah. So
curious about
it's
it
kind of
all.
like an English muffin. Like that's what a crumpet is.
Okay, that makes sense.
So like a softer biscuit. Yeah.
Maybe less yeast.
Interesting. Yeah, it's very bubbly though. So yeah, it says yeast leaven. So it's definitely not like a crunchy biscuit. It's more like a soft
Okay, you're right,
biscuit.
it
And
does look
now
like an English muffin.
now I kind of really just want an English muffin. That sounds delicious.
Mm.
Okay. Well, that's all I have
And on that note,
for
we're
us.
gonna go get some
Yeah.
crumpets.
Everyone go eat an English muffin before Kelly starts her story, if you need to.
Yeah, put it on pause, get yourself a little snacky, warm up
Yeah.
some tea, and we'll start talking about Appalachia again.
Is Forrest joining?
He is gonna join. He's
Okay.
gonna be probably like the second little mini story here. We're gonna invite him in. But yeah, so if you guys didn't tune into our last episode, I covered the history of the Appalachian region, which, as we know, very much aligns with the Appalachian Mountains from like New York and Pennsylvania all the way down to Georgia. But the bulk of it being, when you think about it, being in like West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, and Tennessee. So we talked about its history and culture a little bit. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the culture and arts and folklore today.
Fun. I'm ready.
Yeah. So, just kind of as a reminder or recap of last episode, Appalachians were historically kind of these scrappy, independent people who were generally skeptical of large government, very independent in the way that they took care of themselves, didn't want to rely on everybody else. And many of the early settlers immigrated from Scotland, Ireland, and Germany primarily. They, of course, did bring along the slaves that they did own into the region. And of course, there were a variety of Native American tribes. So you see a lot of the intermingling of the cultures from these
Yeah.
different groups that come together. Speaking of like taking on the cultures of others, this is a place that definitely, took on the culture of the local people that were already there.
Mhm.
So they kind of really brought a lot of their traditions from home, from Europe. They were big on storytelling. You think about the Scottish and Irish, they're very big on storytelling. They also brought Protestantism as the main religion and had a deep dislike of any kind of overreaching authority. They just wanted to live their lives. I feel like it's very libertarian, the kind of vibes that they have.
Yeah, and then Native American culture as well, I feel like more heavily relies on word of mouth storytelling too, so it makes sense that
Exactly.
that's a huge part because
And that
it's
they
the
related.
intermingling of those two societies.
Exactly. Their independence really closely shows how Appalachians relate to the importance of place. They are very attached to the land, to their family, and to their home communities. There's a lot of pride there and a little bit of protectiveness over their history. And I think that comes from being criticized for so long and stereotyped as, hillbillies or rednecks and things like that. But the
Yeah.
people who are here are very proud of their history.
I don't wanna jump ahead if you're getting there. Are you gonna touch on the specific culture of the intermingling between Native Americans and,
I'm not gonna do a
like,
deep
the
dive, but there's gonna be evidence as I go. I'm gonna touch on
okay.
areas where things did combine, if that makes sense.
Okay. I'll wait then. I
Yeah,
don't wanna jump
and
ahead.
drop whatever
No.
whatever you wanna talk about too.
Okay. I'll wait in
Um,
case you touch on it.
yeah. So family lineage also matters a lot. People know where they came from, they know who their people were and what land they worked and what their jobs were. And just as importantly, they knew that about everybody else in town too. I sit around with Forrest's family and they can tell me everything about like the last 3 generations of people in a certain
Wow.
family, at least.
Yeah.
For outsiders, it can come out as a little gossipy, but it's really just pure information. It's very rarely like, oh my gosh, can you believe so and so did this? People would sit out on their front porches and, people would walk by and just kind of shoot the shit. You never met a stranger in your town. Community support is another defining trait. Mutual aid is kind of a cultural norm. So neighbors are always helping neighbors, whether that means sharing their crop, fixing a roof, or just kind of checking in on hard times. And I also see this with Forrest's family. They have close friends that do plumbing or carpentry. So you can call them whenever you need instead of trying
Yeah.
to go find somebody. Somebody helps bush hog their fields and then they get to go hunt on those fields, even
A
sharing like
little
garden crops or butchered meats or anything.
yeah.
It's always being shared, which is really nice. And coming from New York, like I didn't have any of that community down here. So it's really beautiful to see like what happens when these people are kind of so tight knit, even if they're divided by miles of mountain.
Right.
Self-reliance also is very deeply valued here. They take pride in being able to make do, fixing things themselves and living resourcefully within their means. Socially, again, they're very hospitable and friendly. Some people you do have to establish trust when they're particularly distrusting of outsiders. But in reality, most of the time, unless you're like showing up to their house in the middle of a hollow, like you're going to be fine. And then, of course, storytelling is a major part of Appalachian culture. Like I said, told in kitchens, porches, church gatherings, through music especially, and sharing the histories and values. So much of what we know about culture and traditions in Appalachian was oral tradition. It wasn't until much later that things started getting written down, and we'll touch on that as well. I will say I want to do a very deep dive on storytelling because there's so many really great stories and superstitions. I don't have time to cover that in this one, so tune in to our next episode.
You know what? It would be a long ways away, but I would love because I know a lot of the superstitions and stories are also a bit spooky. That would be a great Halloween episode.
I know, but I don't want to wait.
Yeah, that's the thing though.
Maybe we'll revisit
Halloween's
them.
not anywhere near
Yeah.
close to us.
Yes. And then that generational knowledge shows up in their practical traditions as well. So herbal remedies, food preservation, gardening, much of which was kind of derived from the Native Americans.
Right, yeah.
So if you've ever heard of the Three Sisters, for example, this is when, gosh, I can't remember what it is now. It's like couple cropping. I think is it
Oh, like when you
corn
pair
and,
crops that grow well together?
yeah, it's like corn
Yeah.
and zucchini or something. And then something else has to be the Three Sisters.
Maybe.
Bean.
I know there's a couple like tomatoes and basil you're supposed to go to grow together, and certain things that you're not because it interferes with one another.
Yeah, the Three Sisters specifically is corn, beans, and squash. And that's a traditional Native
Mm,
American companion planting system.
yeah.
Because the beans grow up the staff of the corn stalk, and then it adds nitrogen to the soil. The leaves kind of suppress any weeds and maintains like moisture control around the foot of the corn. And then one majorly recognized part of Appalachian culture is their very unique dialect. So Appalachians have one of the most distinctive dialects in the US, aside from maybe like a New Yorker or Boston. And, a lot of people can sometimes have a hard time understanding what they're saying. I found that one survey kind of surveyed a bunch of people from various places in America to gauge what accents had the most trouble with any kind of voice AI assistant.
Interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and Appalachia is 6 on the list after New York, New Jersey, Texas, Boston, and the Deep South.
Okay.
So I don't know if
Makes
we'll be able to
sense.
demonstrate it today because we don't have like a Deep South person here, but Forrest's accent is even very different from some of the other people around here.
Yeah.
And it's completely different. And we'll do a little story about a Appalachian college conference that Forrest went to, where we heard a lot of crazy accents. But a big reason why the dialect sounds the way it was is because it was developed in isolation. So, Appalachia is largely cut off from outside linguistic influence, which means many of the sounds stayed closely tied to the accents they originally descended from. So linguists believe that speech is mainly and largely descended from the Scottish lowland accents. Some others say it's part of the Elizabethan accent as well. And then it just continued to evolve, crossing over with Dutch, crossing over with Native American, African American. Some try to argue that it's the closest to like the original England, UK accents, but that's kind of been a little bit debunked. But so we have Forrest, my dearly beloved, here. I'm going to go grab him, and I just want him to talk to you guys for a minute so you can hear his accent. We'll talk a little bit about his background and things like that.
Fun. I'm
BRB.
excited.
Yeah.
Guest star.
All right. Here's Forrest.
Hey, Jamie, good to see you.
Hey, Forrest. Good to see you. I was going to say, I can only see half of you right now. There we go. That's better. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So, I guess I have deep roots in Appalachia. A lot of my family moved over from Glasgow, Scotland, and Ireland. So my dad's family was one of the first families in Franklin County, and we're in the 11th generation. My mom's side was a little bit later, but they were in the 9th or 10th generation. So we've been here a couple hundred years, I guess. So Kelly
That's so
wanted me
cool.
to talk a little bit about some of my other experiences with Appalachia. So when I was in college, I got a research scholarship or grant to do some research, and it was through a cohort of colleges and universities called the Appalachian College Association. So it wasn't going to be your big schools like Virginia Tech. It was going to be smaller schools like Ferrum College, where I went with, a few thousand students. I want to say there were some more middle-sized schools like East Tennessee State University, but the whole goal of it was to give, students in Appalachia a chance to conduct research who may not get the opportunities at like a bigger university or college.
Oh, wow.
And so it was really unique. There were students from West Virginia, or I guess the western part of West Virginia, the
Okay.
eastern part of West Virginia, the western
Closer to
part
Virginia. Yeah.
of Virginia, and then eastern Tennessee and Kentucky. And a lot of places I go, a southern dialect or a southern drawl sounds kind of similar to an Appalachian accent, but it's still quite different. And so to hear the different dialect and the way people spoke based on where they were in Appalachia was very interesting. There's also another group did a map of people saying just kind of like a cookie cutter statement, like, hi, my name's Forrest, and this is my Appalachian accent. And they would read a statement. So it's very interesting to hear the differences based on where you are geographically and how people have kind of been created these almost endemic environments where everybody kind of starts talking the same within an area. So that was really a really cool experience.
Do you ever have people think that you're from the South, or I guess deeper South? I'm sure you probably would say you are in the South.
When I've gone to Europe, people thought I was from like Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia.
Okay.
I get Georgia a lot. When I got a rental car at the New Orleans airport, they thought I was from Mississippi or Alabama or something. And then they couldn't believe I was from Virginia and that people spoke the way I do up here. So it's always kind of interesting that people, I think when people think of Virginia, they think a lot of Northern Virginia or the coast. And so it's always a little bit surprising.
And then older ladies always love his accent too. It's so funny. Like people from like the North and stuff, they're like, oh my gosh, I've never heard somebody talk that way.
That's so funny.
Anything else?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know. I'm sure if I heard a true Southern accent compared to yours, I would be able to tell the difference. But just in general, from someone who hasn't lived much in the South and isn't familiar, I don't know that I would have been able to pick up on the differences either.
And I will say, I think Forrest has done a lot of work to be able to kind of code switch, so to speak, because he has had teachers in the past, English teachers, Spanish teachers, really kind of try to shame him out of his accent a little bit. But yeah, no, I love his accent. I think your dad's accent is maybe a little bit more of that rounded sound. I'm trying to think of a word that he typically says, but his is a little bit more intense than yours because of like the way you've trained yourself a little bit out of it.
Okay.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, ladies, for having me. And hope y'all, good to see you, Jamie.
Good to see you too. Bye.
Yeah, it was kind of wild to go to that Appalachian conference because he can get a little self-conscious because people comment on his accent all the time.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
But like once we got there, I was like, Forrest, I couldn't understand half of what they were saying. It's a little bit more like he has very good diction and says his words fully. So I think part of the dialect is the grammar as well and things like that, which can impact it.
I have never had trouble understanding Forrest at all. But yeah, I know there's a lot of, for some accents, shame tied to, a way of speaking, or people feeling like you're not speaking properly just because of your accent, or maybe the colloquial kind of sayings of a region that you grew up in, specifically Southern accents. But also, I know certain areas of Britain, if you're from particular areas, their accents are looked down upon more than others. So it's interesting how that gets tied to just someone's way of speaking, which is so almost out of their control based on where you grew up. But there's a lot of prejudice against it sometimes.
And do look at it this way. Like we speak English, but Great Britain speaks English, and we speak a very different English. They have their own words that they use, their own vocabulary, very different from Australian English. And so we just need to look at it as another version of English. They have their own grammar. There's something called like a verbing, which is like when he's a running up the hill and you just add an A before a verb.
I've never heard it called that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Or I've never heard that term, I should say.
Right. So, it can have an academic name to it. It doesn't have to be a grammatical mistake if it's something that their entire community is speaking and understanding. And, it also has its own vocabulary. So breeches, pants. When you live in the holler, that's when you live in a valley between two hills. And if you want to drive out yonder, you can see the stars from that hill there. So yonder is another one that we hear a lot. But yeah, it's often associated with lack of education on the part of the speaker, but that just plays into the hillbilly stereotype and cultural bias.
And Forrest is extremely well educated, more than either of us. So.
To be fair. So yeah, I think that's just an important very important part of this whole
Yeah, for sure.
arts culture, that kind of stuff. Moving into, speaking of the arts. So we typically refer to Appalachian arts and crafts as often like Appalachian folk art, and most of it just grew out of necessity for survival. So both the Native Americans and European settlers introduced artistic traditions through just kind of daily activities that you had to do, weaving cloth for clothing and quilts, or making pottery for bowls and baskets to carry your crop, things like that. And so early on, the art in Appalachia was very practical. It was, creating vessels, tools, or textiles that they needed to live. And then over time, the functional objects began to become more decorative.
I'm not familiar too much with Appalachian art. Is it similar to Native American art? Did they
It is
cross
heavily
a lot?
influenced by it,
Okay.
like very symbolic meaning. Like the quilts are quilted with intention to say a message or things like that. They also got woodworking influence from the Native Americans because they, had to build the structures that they lived in.
Right.
Techniques like whittling was very popular there. And I think the Scandinavians are the ones that actually brought over the idea of wood log cabins. So that was part of it too. You see a lot of
Makes
cabins
sense,
out
yeah.
this way as well. So yeah, even the Native Americans brought their own kind of storytelling traditions and arts and culture. So we'll talk in a few minutes about a musical instrument that African Americans contributed. And so those blended with the styles of Ireland, Scotland, and Germany to create that really distinctive folk art. So it really was made to reflect any kind of struggles and values of the community. And the materials played a big role in how the art looked. So they used a lot of natural dyes and whatever scraps of fabric were available, resulting in those pieces that are kind of, very colorful and expressive, which kind of brings that art element into it. One well-known example that comes kind of out of this tradition and area is barn quilts. So these are basically large tiles that you hang on the side of your barn, and they're colored and angular, or like a quilt essentially, but
Okay.
on,
And you hang
painted.
multiple of
Huh?
them? They're painted on?
It's usually just like one, or maybe somebody will have like
Okay.
one or two attached to their house or something like that. Forrest's mom had painted one a while back and put it up by their driveway. And they're believed to be originated a little bit further north than our typical idea of Appalachia in Pennsylvania, and were likely influenced by German and Dutch immigrants. You would probably see a lot of these in eastern and middle Ohio as well, because it's just so close to the line. So there's also this belief that the barn quilts or regular quilts were used during the Civil War with specific, colorings or markings to signal safety, food, or messages for freedom seekers traveling along the Underground Railroad. So if you had a certain style of quilt, it may show that that's like a safe home.
Yeah, kind of like how a lot of hobos, they would have markings to show areas that they had like their own code and way of communicating
Exactly.
through symbols. Yeah.
Yep. And so this tradition of barn quilts still exists today. You can actually follow a trail of barn quilts in Ohio that kind of takes you around and kind of showcases some of the big ones in that area.
That's cool.
We see them a lot around here. I love them. They make me happy. Moving on to music. Appalachian music has a huge, huge, huge impact on today's music, particularly bluegrass, blues, and country music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like everything else in this region, it was all shaped by the people who lived there, so a cultural blending rather than kind of a single tradition. The early music combined hymns and ballads and stories that would incorporate fiddles and kind of a bluesy tone from African Americans, along with yodeling traditions from Germany and Scandinavia.
Oh, wow.
So when you think about like the hoot and holler of like an old time music song, you can feel those influences.
Right, that makes a lot of sense.
The fiddles everywhere in all of the music. And so it's really cool to think about how it all came together from very different people.
Yeah.
So more specifically, the fiddle came from England and Scotland. There's something called the mountain dulcimer, which is, I think it's like you play it flat.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It sounds really similar to a mandolin, but obviously very different in actual like structure. Those came from Germany and Scandinavia, influenced by other kind of stringed instruments from that area. And then we have the banjo, which I think some people know this, some people don't, that was thought to be a variant of a West African instrument called the akonting. or a folk lute, which was obviously brought over by enslaved Africans.
I didn't know that, actually. That's really interesting.
So the result was something that sounded very unique to Appalachia, and it would eventually become the basis for many mainstream music genres. But before anything went mainstream, there was what we called old-time music here. It's very different from bluegrass because of the culture that's built around it. So it was very communal. People, it would, be a public place of gathering. The girls would get up and dance while 20 different musicians would come and play their string instruments together. There's a lot of like callback kind of music and things like that. They had specific dances to certain things. Line dancing is very much connected with this. Clogging is very much connected with this. And so this tradition still exists here today. Like I'll go to the local distillery down the street, or I'll go to my favorite brewery in Roanoke, and once a week, all of these musicians come together to play. And it's my favorite to go to the brewery on Wednesday and hear them play. It's just great background music. It just fills the air with
That's cool.
beauty. And then just an hour up the road in Floyd County, there's a small cafe/market/music venue, and they do a lot of old time music. They have every Sunday. People can come up and dance and sing and play music. And they also welcome a lot of other forms of Appalachian music. And it's an opportunity to see like pretty popular musicians in a very, very small space, which is really cool. Appalachian music became more mainstream when they started recording it in Bristol and Johnson City, Tennessee, which really kind of led to the more wide-ranging establishment. So one of the most influential acts to emerge from this moment was the Carter family. Do you recognize that name?
It sounds familiar.
Not the Jay-Z Carters.
No, I didn't think you meant that. Their name sounds really familiar, but like I wouldn't be able to tell you one of their songs.
I can't remember if June Carter is one of them. Maybe a descendant. I don't know.
No idea.
Anyway, they were from Poor Valley, Virginia, which is about like 4 hours west of me. And during the 90s, they became one of the most popular musical acts in America. They originated classic songs like Can the Circle Be Unbroken, which has been covered by just about every bluegrass band out there, as well as kind of major artists like Johnny Cash, Bob Dylan, Mavis Staples, and so on. That's the one that I know the best. What's less widely known about the Carter family's songs was that they were written with major help from Leslie Riddle, who was an African-American musician from Burnsville, North Carolina. He taught A.P. Carter, who was kind of the business guy part of the band, in a specific picking style on the guitar and traditional song arrangements, which became a very important part of the Carter family's distinction, that picking style. And he basically followed him around. Carter would go on these song collection trips where they would visit other people throughout the region and hear what songs that they have made and kind of like rip them off. And so I guess he was representing the culture.
Yeah, that's always interesting in music how like we're not coming up with any new notes. You know what I mean? In music. So the arrangement and how people have proprietary arrangements of the same notes that everybody's using, and it's like there's not anything really new that we're coming up with.
Yeah.
In terms of, it's just all the structure. I think that's interesting. And I know there's a lot of times lawsuits or things where people think that people are ripping others off. And I'm like, it's probably pretty easy to do. There's a lot of music and there's only so many notes.
I actually just learned all about this via Taylor Swift.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you guys remember, sidebar, Taylor Swift once sued Olivia Rodrigo because she took some melodies from something from Reputation, I don't remember, for one of her songs. And she required that her name was on the songwriting credits so she could get money for it. And then her most recent album came back, and there are many nods to other songs in Taylor Swift's new album.
Interesting.
So
Olivia's album has a lot of nods? Are you saying Olivia Rodrigo's album has a lot of nods?
No, Taylor Swift's recent Life of a Showgirl has some
nods to other.
So Father Figure is very much using, what's his name? I should have come prepared with my notes here. George Michael's song, Father Figure.
Okay. Yeah.
And so she directly credits him. But then there are some, like, I think It's Wood is the song name, that is very much kind of homage to the sounds of the Jackson 5.
Mm.
And so it's got that fun upbeat, but the amount, it always comes down to the amount of notes that are copied. So you can
Okay.
copy up to 4 notes, and that's called an
Interesting.
interpolation. But if you go over that into like the pattern of it, then you have to credit them.
Gotcha. Oh,
It's
okay. I
so
never knew that.
interesting.
It's like a
Yeah.
fun
So
fact.
if you're ever in a lawsuit about music, that's what you can talk
I
about
never will be.
interpolation.
It will never be me.
Um, so I don't think the Carters interpolated anything. They used Riddle
Okay.
as a human tape recorder, and he would memorize the melodies and later teach the songs to the rest of the group. So this is one of the reasons why when Cowboy Carter came out, because Beyonce's reclaiming music that was brought to us by African Americans, this is one of the
Right.
reasons why we can claim that, because this music was the establishment of country music. And so
Yeah.
we can credit, the role of African Americans in that. So altogether, these musicians really established several genres, the old time music, bluegrass, blues, and then they first called country music hillbilly music, but when they moved to Nashville, Tennessee with the Grand Ole Opry, they wanted it to make more mainstream and accessible, so they kind of removed any regional identity to it and called it country music. So if anybody wants to
Interesting.
dive deeper into this old-timey music, there is something called the Crooked Road Trail, and it follows historic music sites across Southwest Virginia. I think many of it is kind of probably where the Carters played and other kind of iconic locations. And it goes from Southwest Virginia all the way to Franklin County.
Is it a book or it's a show?
No, it's a trail, like a tourism.
Oh, like a
thing.
physical trail. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yep. So you can stop at these historic sites and learn about, the events that happened there and the contributions to music, which is fun. Next, we'll touch on folk medicine. So Appalachian was very much kind of these spiritual and healing traditions, again, pulled a lot from Native American influence, as well as some of the more mystical parts of Scotland and Ireland, and crossing over with Protestantism too. So when we think about a witch doctor, or they call it a root doctor, or a granny woman.
That's so cute. I've never heard that before. Granny.
Today we're like witches, but this was really quite connected to their Protestantism as well, spirituality and things like that. Their chants or, sayings or charms or whatever, they were going to God. They weren't going to necessarily nature or things like that, like a true pagan would be doing.
I'm sorry, tangent. Do you see the thumbs up that it keeps giving you? Or no? Okay.
It's on top of my hand so much.
I just had to mention it because I think it's going to be in the recording. So if people see it, I just wanted to know. I want you to know
really
that we see it too. It's just, it's an accident.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out if it's on the recording. Probably.
Yeah, I think it is going to be. So
love it.
Please just ignore those.
I'm just going to sit on my hands now. So yeah, they, one key figure was the root doctor. It was somebody who used plants, prayers, herb, and even dirt sometimes to heal illness, ward off evil, and protect the home. These practices were heavily influenced by indigenous knowledge, particularly the Cherokee and Choctaw. But the other important role was the granny woman. And so she was often a midwife, but didn't always have to be. It could have just been like a female version of a root doctor. And they held deep knowledge in the physical and spiritual realms. They kind of became this community-based provider because they were so isolated. They had to have some sort of somebody to treat them because the doctor's offices were, hours away or things like that.
Right.
They didn't have established urban centers that they could go to for treatment. And so these kind of neighbor ladies were kind of closing that gap in care, especially for women and children.
Yeah.
So they knew things like catnip tea or red alder tea, herbal tea, can keep infants from breaking out in hives.
Wow.
They would prescribe stew down calamus root to help with colic. And if someone came to them with a bad burn, they knew that blowing smoke and chanting the right words could talk the fire out of it.
Interesting. Some of those maybe a little bit more scientifically based than others.
And so we get a lot of old wives' tales that we hear about, and I'll dive deeper
Yeah.
into some more specific ones, especially about the protection from like evil spirits and things like that. We'll get into a lot more of that in our next episode.
Sounds good. Is this a 3-parter?
Yeah. So
Okay,
this is
cool.
part 2, and then we'll be done.
And then you'll have
after the
another
next
part
one.
next
Yeah.
week. Okay, awesome.
Yep. And then next we're going to touch on literature and food really quickly. So long before there was any kind of Appalachian recognized literature, women were the ones documenting life in the region. And so many of the
Yeah.
stories can come from them writing things down, whether it's through letters or diaries or recipe books, church notes, family Bibles. They started recording like births and deaths and illnesses and migration patterns and things like that. So a lot of what we know, that wasn't technically literature, but that can be a strong foundation for anybody trying to write about the area. Earliest official written descriptions came from outsiders. So Thomas Jefferson, though it's not literature, often cited it as kind of isolating, culturally backward, and developmentally behind, which is the narrative that stuck. So thanks for that,
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson, even though you basically lived in the Appalachian Mountains. A little bit rude.
What else is new?
Yeah. And of course, this portrayal continued through the 19th, 20th century. But today, there is a narrative that's being challenged here. Appalachian literature is now more often written by actual Appalachians themselves and reclaim the story through their own perspectives. So a lot of the themes are around trying to break through rural stereotypes, talk about migration, queerness, class complexity, economic issues, all of that kind of stuff. So we've talked about Barbara Kingsolver at length at this point, or I have anyway.
We are her biggest fans.
Yeah. Can't wait to read her new book. But
Is she coming out with another one?
I think so. I can't remember the name
you'll
of
have
it
to
right
send it
now,
to me.
but
Yeah, send it to me.
yeah, so she kind of talks about domestic life, women's labor, ecological stuff. So not just like the opioid epidemic and things like that.
Yeah.
Then we have Beth Macy. She's a journalist from Southwest Virginia. Shout out, Beth. She's running for, I guess, state position now from Botetourt.
Good for her.
Which is right up the road for me. So she is a very big Appalachian voice. She covers corporate greed, medical malpractice from Dope Sick, and then, economics collapse tied to the extraction and disinvestment of the major cities. So she's covered that in Factory Man, which is covering the furniture, which doesn't get talked about as much. That's more in like the Martinsville area of things. And then Paper Girl she just put out. So I will be reading that soon. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, well, I'll find the links for everything too and put them in the show description. So if you guys want to find them, you can go there and look.
Yeah. And I want to cover other voices. So there was a Frank X. Walker from Kentucky. He was a poet, a Black poet who coined the term Appalachian, which I love. Because he wanted to assert that Black identity and Appalachian identity are not opposites. They were integral to the development of the society. And so he does poetry and things like that and just kind of comments the Black life in Appalachia as rooted, multi-generational, and historically present. There's also some queer literature that comes out of Appalachia more and more because, as you can imagine, it's very hard to be queer in this region.
Yeah.
There's Silas House. He's also from Kentucky, and he's one of the most visible openly gay Appalachian writers. He has written things like Clay's Quilt and Southernmost, which just kind of portray rural queer life without tragedy as default and just kind of addressing economic justice, environmental justice, faith, belonging, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like Barbara touches on that a little bit in Demon Copperhead. So I really want to get a little bit more into that as well. And then finally, the food. Appalachian food is a very important part of culture here, and we are very proud of it. And I haven't had most of these foods until I started dating Forrest.
Okay, I'm excited because I know nothing about this.
I've only had Mexican white sauce, which is exclusive to Virginia. It's not even an Appalachia thing.
Okay, I also have had that actually. I didn't know that was, I
don't think it's Appalachian, but it's important.
Okay.
It's Virginia, so part is.
I don't like it.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's because you haven't been raised on it. It's also tastes nothing. It's not Mexican at all. It's basically like ranch with like garlic and cumin in it. Yeah.
And the one that I had was sweet. It tastes like sugary ranch.
No, ours make it a little spicy over here.
Okay, I feel like I would like that.
Right.
The one I had was very sweet, and I didn't. It was a weird combination
That's
to me.
funny.
Yeah.
Apparently it's like nowhere else, not anywhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You'll have to, I don't know. If I come back down, well, I'll have to try
Yeah.
some
We'll have to go.
there.
Man, and we were gonna go
Mhm.
to Mexican.
I know, we should have, because then
I
I could have
know.
tried
Next
some, but
time.
oh well, too late.
Let me just say we were very disappointed in the Mexican food in Ohio. But we only tried one place and we were so disheartened we never tried anywhere again.
I was gonna say, I feel like there are, I mean, obviously it's like Tex-Mex. It's not
Actually, 2 we went
real
to.
Mexican food, but there are some places that I think are better than others.
Yeah. Okay, so getting into it, Appalachian food is really practical, seasonal, and rooted in the fact that they could only have what they grew or preserved or could afford.
Right.
So the meals are very much trying to use as little as possible as ingredients go, but trying to feed the most. So we have cornbread. And corn is a major crop in this area. Obviously, we learned the ways of growing corns from the Native Americans. So it is made with cornmeal and like butter, I don't know, and maybe one other thing. Often cooked in kind of a cast iron pan. It's kind of got like a crunchier outside and then a softer inside. It's not my favorite, I'll be honest.
No.
If I smother it, I will say I like it when you put jalapenos in it and smother it in butter.
Yeah, that sounds delicious.
Then there's biscuits and gravy. So essentially, you top biscuits with a thick gravy made from sausage drippings, flour, and milk. Forrest likes to make his very spicy, and I love it. You can do it with sausage or chipped beef, which I've never had, but my friend Mackenzie from Allegheny County really loves it. I'm biased to sausage because that can also impact how spicy it is.
I think my family's not at all Appalachian, so I don't know where. I feel like my mom had made that at one point, or
Probably.
at times when we were kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say biscuits and gravy especially. I made sure it did originate in Appalachia, but it's kind of been taken over as a Southern thing regardless.
Yeah, and not necessarily, I guess I should have specified, she made it with the chipped beef specifically.
Sorry, yeah.
Which I feel like is maybe a little bit
Less
more
common,
unusual.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know where that came from, but
Yep. Then there's soup beans, which
never heard of it.
I hate.
Don't know her.
It's basically slow-cooked pinto beans, seasoned with fatback or ham, and chopped with onions. It is the most...
I mean, that sounds good.
I hate it.
No? Okay. I love
so bland.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, then never mind. I guess not. But I like to make beans from like the dried beans.
Yeah.
And then I'll put them in the crock pot with jalapenos and spices and onions and stuff. I've never done it with ham, but I like ham, so that sounds good. But yeah, I guess if it's under seasoned, maybe not so much, but.
And I doubt that they really had a lot of seasoning there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So it's not my favorite. I like a bean in chili or soups or black beans or whatever, but for some reason the pinto beans just don't cut it for me. The fat back freaks me out, so I can't even like enjoy the good ham smelling part.
So what is fat back?
It's literally a piece of fat from the back of a hog.
Okay. That's
as far as I know.
Pretty self-explanatory, I guess.
Yeah. Then there's chicken and dumplings, which is stewed chicken in a broth with thick hand-rolled dumplings. There are the pepperoni rolls of West Virginia. So again, this is kind of another like generally state exclusive.
Okay, so that just makes me think of like the pizza rolls.
No, they're more like I think they're more of like a sub shape, and it's like thick dough, and then in the middle of it, it's like pepperoni and cheese. And so they were created to be an easy and portable lunch for coal miners.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Grab and go. So you can still get them at like pretty much any convenience store in West Virginia at this point.
I should say we are getting to lunchtime here, so I think all of this sounds really good because I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. There's apple butter, which isn't necessarily from Appalachia, but they were very big on preservation, jams, jellies, as well as apple butter. So that's kind of slow cooked.
Right.
And it becomes a better applesauce.
Yeah. Yeah. That really threw me off when I first had apple butter because I was expecting something like a cinnamony butter. Like I was expecting it to be a butter, and then I'm like, this is not the same.
Right. Yeah.
This is not what I was anticipating.
It's still cinnamony, but it's not. It's thicker.
Yeah.
Morel mushrooms is another one that I've had in the family.
Delicious.
And again, morel mushrooms can be found wherever, but I think the part that plays in here is like if you've got a sycamore tree on your land, you're not telling anybody else because morels are hard to find, but you're passing it
Okay.
down. So we have a sycamore tree out at Forrest family's house, and it's usually pretty reliable. And eating them fried is so good. But also
Love a
for
mushroom.
restaurants to have morel mushrooms around here, it's money. It's money
Really?
paid. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then last but not least, corn liquor, moonshine.
Classic.
So Franklin County, Virginia is the moonshine capital of the world. So I would not be able to
Wow.
complete this
Interesting.
podcast episode without giving it a highlight. I
Okay. Well,
thought,
remind me also next time I'm there to get some moonshine.
yeah, I thought about bringing it out for this episode, but it's not noon yet. And I just told you I was tired of drinking. So we're not going to drink
Yeah.
any. But yeah, next time we see you, we'll give you some. So it's made by distilling corn, and it became a way for Appalachian families to have an abundant crop that they could make portable, valuable, and shelf stable. So at
Yeah.
one point, the government began to tax alcohol, especially during the Civil War and Prohibition. And moonshining as part of that became criminalized because it could be made from home. So they wanted to make it illegal so that they had to buy it from companies and pay tax.
Mhm. Yeah.
So obviously it was illegal, so it started this kind of underground economy, just like the tea trade, and it gave way to the rise of moonshine runners. And so these were people who would transport the liquor through winding mountain roads, often at night, outrunning the law enforcement to try to get it to the next place that it needed to go. And so the road that we take up to go to Floyd, it's a very back road. Like you got to go very slow, very curvy. It's called Shooting Creek because there are so many shootouts on that road because that's where the
Wow.
liquor run would go.
That's
So lots
cool.
of cool stories around that. And so the moonshine culture has really inspired a lot of pop culture things. So Smokey and the Bandit, which I didn't know. I've heard of Smokey and the Bandit. It's like got Burt Reynolds in it. Apparently that's about moonshining.
Oh,
And
okay.
then potentially like the biggest blockbuster one would be Lawless. And this has Tom Hardy, Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah.
Forget
Okay.
that one. So it's the famous
Yeah. I
Bondurant
don't know
brothers
who else
from
is in
Franklin
it.
County named Howard, Forrest, and Jack. And so
That's
it's
so
like
funny.
this notorious group, and the shootout in that scene is very much local to here and things like that. So
Hmm.
we can drive around and still find some evidence of stills and like the back hills
That's
and stuff.
awesome.
And we
Yeah.
get it all the time from people here. You can get it as white lightning, which is like the most pure form, or a lot of people will add fruits to it. So there's this, what is it called? An Indian peach. And I don't even think it's a peach. I don't know what it is, but that's my favorite.
Okay.
But they and like boysenberries. So it's often like foraged fruit, but you can put watermelon, apple, cider in it, like all kinds of stuff to make it flavored. And
Interesting.
that also dilutes it a little bit more.
Right.
So anything that you get at a distillery or in the store, people around here will say that's not real moonshine because it has to be under a certain amount of alcohol level or
Yeah.
whatever. And so it's very diluted compared to like a true white lightning would be, but it's probably safer. So
Good to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would take the safe option.
Yeah. But our favorite is just kind of getting in a circle, passing it around a fire in the mason jar. So
Nice.
yeah. All right. Let's wrap it up. Appalachian culture has always been rich and creative and all of these things. And it's beautiful because it comes out of the means of survival and community and a shared lived experience from these many people with many different backgrounds. You know, a lot of people call it primitive or things like that. But as we see today, it's been very influential on arts and culture all over the US, especially in the South. And so, you know, next time we'll talk about storytelling traditions. We touched on a little bit here, but we'll get into the superstitions of Appalachia, like if you hear your name in the woods, no, you didn't. We'll talk about like the Bell Witch, Mothman of West Virginia, and all kinds of those spooky stories from the mountains.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to get into some of the stories,
Yeah.
and it sounds like.
Yep. Was there anything that you thought I was going to talk about from Indigenous influence that I didn't?
I think the only one, and I was trying to find the term because I couldn't remember it and I couldn't find it, but I was from Barbara's book and history lessons in general, the specific term of the group of people who are the intersection of Native American and Irish, and I can't remember the
Melungeons.
specific term. Melungeon. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what
I
it is.
wish I should have gotten Mackenzie to send me a voice note, and maybe I still will,
Yeah, for next
because
week we
she
could do.
believes that she's Melungeon. She's got like very dark
Mhm.
olive skin, very light eyes, black hair. So I'm gonna chat with her and see if I can get her to at least do like an audio recording or something, like introducing, because her accent's
Yeah,
very different from Forrest as well, just being,
that'd be cool.
hour and a half away from here. Um,
Right.
yeah, and I may have touched on it a little bit last episode, but maybe not now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I'll touch
Yeah,
on that a little bit more.
I don't think we did last episode, so
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to just touch on that briefly.
I think I can talk about that as the lore because there's also like the Moon-Eyed people that I was going to talk about as well. So
Okay,
I'll just
yeah.
kind of wrap it into like the lore of the people as well.
Next week, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds
Cool.
good to me.
Yay.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Please rate and review the show if you have a moment. We really appreciate it on whatever platform you're listening on. Leave us a comment with your thoughts or any topics you'd like to hear and some more information on. We'd love to know what you guys want to listen to. And then if you want to see some photos or some more information posts on our topics today, you can visit us on Instagram for that information. Our handle is at RenFairPod, or if you want to watch the show on video, you can visit us on YouTube also at RenFairPod.
Yay.
Yay. Thanks for joining.
Have a fabulous day and evening.
Bye,
And
everybody.
next 2 weeks until our next episode comes out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're still not in the new year, so we're getting there. We're
Yeah.
coming up. All right. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.